He was 17. He didn't have an established channel. It was him pursuing me.
Did you guys see the new podcast that came out with, I think it's Michelle Phan's podcast, and her first guest, or the first guest that people paid any attention to? So I don't know if this is a new podcast that she started or if she's always had it. I feel like it's a new venture. And then her first guest was Tati Westbrook, right? Someone correct me if I'm wrong later, but I'm pretty sure that's what's happening here, because we haven't heard from Michelle Phan either for a while. So I think maybe this is what she's been cooking up behind the scenes this whole time. Anywho, so she invites Tati on to talk about basically everything to do with walking us through her entire journey and her struggles and trials and tribulations that she went through to become the mega influencer content creator that she is today. Of course, they had to talk about Dramageddon, the whole fiasco that went down with Jeffree Star and James Charles, and, that whole group of people. I can't even be bothered to name them all. Manny MUA, Laura Lee. Anyway, so again, I feel like, am I in the Twilight Zone? Am I the only one who is thinking logically here? Because again, I scroll to the comment section and everyone is like, yay, queen, you're back. Oh my God, the most unproblematic YouTuber, they're talking about Tati, is back. The most unproblematic, the sweetest beauty influencer that I always looked up to. I'm so glad that you're back. She says in the interview, and I actually cannot believe that, how is everyone glossing over this? So she basically says, if I edit this later, I'll put in the clip. If I can't be bothered, then you're just gonna have to watch the podcast for yourself. She literally says that, okay, the whole fiasco that went down with James Charles, that was such a misunderstanding that everyone had about me, because James pursued me first. He was 17. She, out of her own mouth, she says in one breath, he was 17 at the time. This was before he blew up, right? So she said that he was 17. He was trying to reach out to her and, collab with her, or basically clout chase off of her, is what she was implying. So he was 17, and then she says he pursued me. I wasn't pursuing a relationship with, a new up-and-coming teenager in the industry. He's the one that pursued me because he wanted to clout chase off of me.
Back in the day, I did help James Charles quite a bit. And I think that there's been a big misconception that I somehow pursued the relationship with him. He was 17. He didn't have an established channel. He was the one hitting up me in my DMs. Oh my gosh, I love your channel. Let's hang out in LA. And it was him pursuing me.
Saying a 17-year-old pursued you is crazy. Am I really the first one that has to say this? And I saw nobody address this in the comments whatsoever. Of course, Michelle Phan is up there blowing smoke up Tati's ass and agreeing with everything that she says. I'm starting to feel like those two might be a little bit cut more from the same cloth than we originally thought. I'm side-eyeing Michelle now too. I mean, there was a point where I thought, okay, they could never make me hate Michelle because she was the first. She was the OG. She always has a special place in my heart, especially as an Asian girl, right? Being basically the first beauty YouTuber that we know of in history. Michelle Phan created that entirely new career path, essentially. But now, after watching that podcast, if that chemistry that I saw between her and Tati, the way that Michelle was saying over and over again how she thought that they were so similar, and how even the struggles or the challenges that they went through in their lives, a lot of their similar life events, or I guess tower moments, as they would say in tarot card reading, she said that's eerie how they went through almost the exact same kind of challenges, just in different forms. So I don't know.
We literally have parallel lives. What you experience, I experienced something like that, but just in my own way, right?
If that connection that she was feeling so strongly with Tati on the podcast is real, then I might have to rethink my support of Michelle Phan too, because yeah. Anyway, back to the Tati James Charles things. Saying a 17-year-old pursued you is crazy. Also, I clocked that basically Tati has not changed this entire time. You guys know, again, if you've been watching my channel since 4 or 5 years ago, I've never been a fan of Tati. I've always seen right through her. White woman tears, white woman tears, white woman tears all day long. I don't care. This is what she's doing. And I used to think that, okay, I had a video on my channel a while ago. I think this was back when, I don't know if this was when Tati made Bye Sister. It was probably even before that. Oh no, it was when Tati basically came for Kiki Chanel. Do you guys remember Kiki Chanel? She does videos mainly on exposing MLMs right now, but she started off as a beauty YouTuber, and Tati basically attacked her for giving her like a negative review on her. Oh my god, I'm like digging really, really far back into my memory bank for all these details because I have not thought about 2018, 2019, whenever this was, beauty community drama and beef for the longest time. Or no, I'm so sorry, guys. Maybe Tati gave a bad review, and then Kiki Chanel was like, what is she talking about? This product is fine. Something like that. Basically, she just expressed an opinion of hers that was different from Tati's opinion on a particular product. It was an eyeshadow palette. And then Tati went like ballistic on her and made a video exposing Kiki Chanel and making it seem like Tati, was the victim, when in reality, no, you're being the bully because you're the one with millions of subscribers attacking a channel that has only 100,000 subscribers, that you know your hordes and hordes of fans and minions are going to go after this channel and basically like run this poor girl off the internet, which at least I'm happy to say Kiki Chanel did not let that happen. She continued to and still thrives to this day on YouTube in a different niche. But anyway, so Tati has always moved like this. I even called her a Slytherin at one point because I recognize the manipulation tactics that she uses. I can see from a mile away because I am a Slytherin. I'm a savage at heart, but I like to think, I mean, we all like to think that I use my powers for good rather than bad. Or even if I use my powers for bad, I just own up to the fact that I'm using it for bad, right? That I'm being a succubus, or that I'm being a savage, or that I'm being selfish. I have no problem owning my shit. And I think that's why people like me, even though I'm not the most perfect person, because I don't present myself as being a perfect person, right? I'm very upfront and honest. I own, not only that, I embrace the fact that I'm not perfect. I call out myself constantly on my channel as well, especially if I find myself in situations where I really lean more into kind of like the dark, feminine, savage energy, I will call myself out for that. And then if I decide to do something, even if, other people might think that it's morally questionable or whatever, that's fine. I'm still going to do me. You know what I'm saying? But at least I'll be in alignment, right? Like, I'm not saying that I'm one kind of person. I'm not trying to pretend to be this innocent, pure person while doing another shady thing behind the scenes. I will just say exactly what I'm going to do and do it. And that way I don't need to worry about keeping up any type of image. I don't need to worry about, convincing a certain group of people to like me based on anything other than my true self, right? So this is where my problem with Tati is. I feel like she, throughout her entire time on YouTube, she's always portrayed herself. She's always been very careful, whatever drama she got herself into, to portray herself as the victim, as the one that was pursued by a 17-year-old. Like, that's crazy. I'm so sorry. I cannot believe, how did she sit there and let those words come out of her mouth? And then there was a whole editing team that edited that whole podcast and left that part in there, like purposely left that in there and decided that, okay, this is good to upload. There's not going to be a problem with this. Can you imagine if the genders were reversed? How old was Tati at the time? She was in her late 30s already by the time that she started to develop a relationship with James Charles. I'm not saying the relationship itself was wrong, like a creator, an influencer helping another up-and-coming creator, like, okay, fine. But the fact that she said he pursued her when he was 17 and she's like in her late 30s, can you imagine if the genders were reversed? If it was a 30-something-year-old man saying that, oh, I know that, I put out this video to completely defame and tear down this young girl because I was pissed off that she didn't plug my vitamin brand, because this is the whole reason why Tati made that bombshell video about James Charles, exposing James Charles, right? It's because he didn't promote her freaking vitamins, like her hair vitamins, Halo Beauty. I think I even tried out Halo Beauty. Yeah, I bought like 1 month worth of pills from Halo Beauty at one point and I reviewed it on my channel. It's been deleted since then, but wow, what a time. Anyway, so that was what happened. If you guys are remembering, like, Tati put out this video called Bye Sister, where she exposed James Charles for being such a horrible human being, which I don't even disagree with, but that doesn't absolve you of the fact that you were dealing with a 17-year-old when you were in your 30s, and now you're trying to blame a kid for pursuing you. Can you imagine how that would look if a popular influential influencer, like YouTuber with millions of subscribers in his 30s, put out a video destroying the reputation, completely exposing and destroying the reputation of a young 20-year-old girl, and then later on turning back and blaming it all on her because she was the one that pursued him in the first place. It's giving Lolita. You guys read the book Lolita before, right? I'm trying to remember the male protagonist's name. It was something weird. It starts with an H. It's giving Humbert from Lolita, except just reverse the genders. Because, if you ever read Lolita, it's told from the story of her predator, basically, the older man that marries her mom, who was a widow. And then eventually he plots, I don't know if he plots to unalive her mom or she just happened to die in a freak accident one day, which left him, Humbert, with the sole custody of his now adopted daughter, Lolita, which he goes on to have an asexual relationship with throughout the entire book. And since it's told from his perspective, the book is written as if Lolita, who is not an adult, right, who's a child, is constantly coming on to him and like being inappropriate with him, and he had to give in the end because she just would not let up. It's giving very much that, Tati. And I just want to clarify here, even though I think it's self-evident, but if I don't say this piece, I feel like people are going to get all up in arms. I'm not comparing the Tati and James Charles relationship to that of Humbert and Lolita. I'm not suggesting that Tati did anything inappropriate of that sort with James. Of course not. But what I am saying is that her framing of this story as this 17-year-old boy pursued me and hounded me, so therefore I cannot be held responsible for the dumpster fire that this relationship ended in. It mirrors exactly the mindset of a predator like Humbert and the exact type of justification that such a person would give in order to evade having to take his own responsibility and accountability as the adult in the situation. Now, obviously, in Humbert's case, he was committing an actual crime, committing actual, SA on his own adopted daughter. But in Tati's case, I would say it's still very disgusting. She, as the adult in the situation, had every chance and responsibility, I would say, to walk away from James Charles, no matter how hard he was, quote unquote, pursuing her or blowing up her DMs. And as a matter of fact, I'm sure he was not the only person in her inbox at the time. She was one of the hugest beauty influencers on the platform. You think that there weren't hordes of other teenagers, boys and girls, trying to get her attention at all hours of the day? Who put a gun up to Tati's head and forced her to help James Charles in particular? Oh, could it maybe have something to do with the fact that he appeared on Ellen and she could see that his star was rising, and that if she was able to attach her name to his early on before he blew up, that it would be beneficial to her as well? Do you think it could possibly be that? My point is, nobody held up a gun to this woman's head and forced her to just take in this 17-year-old James Charles under her wing, okay? She knew exactly what she was doing at the time. She knows exactly what she's doing now. Please don't fall for the manipulation and the fake, sweet Valley Girl voice. Okay, you guys are way smarter than that, I know. If you find yourself getting drawn into her sympathetic act and maybe starting to entertain the idea that she really was in over her head, just ask yourself this. Ask yourself what you would have done in that same position, and it will become very clear to you. I can tell you, I don't even let them follow me. Like, if I find out that someone who followed me newly followed on Instagram and I go to their profile and it says that they're 16 or some shit, I block them immediately. Like, I do not play around with that shit at all. Okay? So imagine Tati, who was older than me at the time, right? Like, entertaining and taking this 17-year-old up on his suggestions to meet and collab and whatnot. Like, what? Not only that, later on trying to destroy his entire reputation and career and stuff, which, okay, we all know James Charles himself proved later on to be a very shady person anyway, so he has his own things that he needs to answer to, but we're focusing on Tati's actions here, right? The fact that she decided to essentially take him down and ruin his entire career over some vitamins on some purely vindictive tip, and then 5 years later still singing the same song and dance about how woe is me, people were in my ear, even though I was the one that entertained a 17-year-old pursuing me for clout and collaborations, which since I was a full-grown adult at the time and he was a minor, that makes me the sole bearer of responsibility. And then later on, even though it was me who sat down and turned on the camera and filmed a 40 plus minute long expose, hate piece essentially, on somebody half my age, just because they didn't promote my vitamin brand, even though I did all of that of my own accord and free will, it couldn't possibly have been my fault because I'm pure, sweet, innocent, angelic Tati over here. You know, I feel like I used to maybe even give her too much credit. Like, I thought she was this master manipulator Slytherin who just knew how to play the PR game or something. But now I'm really starting to think, after watching this podcast, now I'm really starting to think maybe she really is just that Delulu, and that she genuinely feels she doesn't bear most, if not all, of the responsibility in this situation, at least pertaining to James Charles. You know, you can argue that Jeffree manipulated her. Yeah, sure. He was an adult, she was an adult. It was fair game. But I don't know, just to be this lacking in awareness and this unable to take accountability for your own role in the whole fiasco as a 42-year-old woman at this point is just not normal to me. It's not. I don't know. What do you guys think? So I'm kind of shocked, although not really, because I know how media works. I know that none of these podcasts, none of these shows, even on YouTube at this point, right? None of them are genuine. Like, they're all very calculated and crafted to push a certain specific narrative. They also know that the majority of the people watching these things are sheep. And so the purpose of these shows or podcasts, whatever, on the surface, even if it seems like it's about some salacious topic or spilling the tea about all the behind the scenes that happen with a certain group of people, like that whole group of influencers with the Jeffree Star and James Charles and Tati controversy that went down, they're making it seem like, okay, now 5 years later, Tati is revealing all on Michelle Phan's podcast, you know, uncensored, unfiltered. No, it's very filtered. You want to know what it's filtered through? Tati's lens only, okay? Michelle Phan's lens, who we all know that Michelle Phan and Tati, I don't know if they were like BFF, but they used to be back in the day, like really close associates. They have history with each other as far as the whole beauty influencing career goes, that's for sure. I don't know if they were besties necessarily, but they have shown support to each other over the years. And so, you know, Michelle Phan is on Tati's side, Tati is on her side. So obviously they're going to craft this episode, the podcast episode, in which Tati looks like the angel and the victim. So aside from James Charles, she also speaks on Jeffree Star and again makes herself look like the victim, that Jeffree Star pursued me, you know. And she even, okay, she let it slip. I caught this during the interview that she let it slip. She said, oh, you know, you have to understand, like, I would never go out of my way to approach someone like Jeffree Star. He was just so like intimidating and larger than life, and I'm just over here in my own little innocent, she said the word innocent, she let it slip out, but then she quickly corrected herself. No, but you know, I'm just over here doing my own little thing. Like, I'm just quiet and I'm not even in that whole world. I don't run in those circles that he does. So when he approached me, I didn't know what to do. You know, I was like, wow, this larger than life Jeffree Star, what does he want with little old me?
Is like, hey, just heads up, Jeffree's coming. And at the time, like, he was killing it, right? And also he was totally terrifying. And so I was just like, oh no, like, oh, like, I don't know. Like, I'm kind of an idiot. And I'm kind of like this innocent, like, boring.
This is how she's framing it. I saw not 1 ounce of her taking accountability throughout that entire interview. Like,
Even I wouldn't call it a friendship with Shane, but he pursued me too. So it's like I look back at my life and I'm like, wow, like I was my own little island. And like, how did this happen? But it happened.
do you see the passive language that she uses over and over again when she describes these situations, these dramas that went down? She just keeps saying, it happened to me, this happened to me, that happened to me. I was on my own island minding my own business, but then these people came in and barged in on my piece. No, you were in a very competitive, cutthroat, fast paced industry where there was a lot of competition. Some of your peers from that industry, kind of on the same level as you, right? Because we're talking about everyone involved in this story was in the millions of subscribers level at that time. So some of your peers in your industry came to you with the proposal to collaborate, as people often do in business, in any industry, and you, despite maybe having some sort of intuition, some sort of inkling that these people maybe did not have your best interest at heart, maybe had some ulterior motives, or let's just okay, even if we give her the benefit of the doubt and say that she really was blindsided, like she thought that these people were all coming to her in good faith, still, at the end of the day, you, Tati, were the one who chose to go ahead with pursuing a relationship with a 17-year-old James Charles at the time. You were the one who decided to accept Jeffree Star's invitation to collaborate and become friends, despite all of the controversy at the time that was already out about him, making racist remarks and whatnot in the past. You, Tati, you were the one who chose to associate with these people in the hopes of getting a come up of your own. And when it blew up in your face, you wanted to run back to the internet and cry your white woman tears and absolve yourself of all responsibility. As a 30-something-year-old woman who willingly put herself in the center of this entire mess, this ordeal. I don't think so.
A lot of powerful people bringing information to me, and it happened. I was really distraught over the information. It was very triggering to me. I've had to overcome some pretty significant trauma in my life.
See, again, it's me, 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 me. It's always about her trauma, her difficulties that she's had to overcome. What about the trauma that you put James through? What about the trauma he experienced when he reported having thoughts of unaliving himself after you dropped the Bi Sister video that garnered 50 million views? Something crazy like that? That transcended even YouTube borders. It made it onto the actual news. What about Kiki Chanel's trauma? When you sent your millions of followers after her for giving an honest review of a palette that she claims that you unfairly gave a bad review to, which she is entitled to her opinion. She was not disrespectful in her video. What about my trauma? When I got diarrhea after a week of taking your Halo pills. Oh my god, you guys, I'm trying to be serious. No, true story though. I did get diarrhea within a week of taking those pills. All right, now I told you guys, I've already deleted that video, that review off the internet, so it's lost in the ether, but the ones that were there to see it all go down, remember, okay? Not once did she say that, okay, listen, those people have their own faults and they have their own wrongs that they need to atone for or admit to, but as far as my role in this entire thing, I accept or I admit that I also played a role in it, right? Because if you find yourself in drama-filled situations over and over again, well, who's the common denominator in each of those situations? It's you, right? So there must be something about you that is either attracting or tolerating these kinds of people coming into your life, which is a form of responsibility that you have to take a hold of as an adult if you want peace in your life, right? Because nobody owes you anything. Jeffree Star and James Charles, especially James Charles as a minor when he was 17, didn't owe it to you to fall back and not pursue you or not try to use you for views or clout or however she perceives it. As an adult who was older than all of them, by the way, not that age indicates any level of wisdom, but as an adult well into her 30s at that point, it was completely her responsibility. It was all her choice to get involved with those people. And that's fine if you make a mistake, but just own up to it. That, hey, maybe I wasn't exercising the best judge of character at the time either. Or maybe I was also kind of blinded with stars in my eyes about how these connections or these affiliations with people like Jeffree Star, Laura Lee, they were the most viewed beauty YouTubers at the time, and I wanted a slice of that pie. So that's why I decided to kind of join their little group for a while, and I regret it. Something like that. I didn't hear anything of the sort out of her mouth. The only thing that she admitted to, and see, this is the thing, Tati thinks she's so slick, but it's not going to get past me. She said at one point in the interview that, okay, I concede or I admit, hey, I'm not perfect. I'm not saying that I handled the situation perfectly. Looking back on it, I do think I could have handled it better. So she's trying to distract us from the fact that she's not taking any accountability about her part, about her willingness in being involved in those relationships in the first place. She's trying to distract us from that by saying that, hey, look, I take accountability, okay? I admit that I could have handled it better. But no, 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 you're not admitting to your part, okay? Your role in getting involved in drama in the first place. Saying that you wish you could have handled it better, that's actually kind of just code for still, all this stuff happened to me, all these people pursued me, and the drama found me. I was just here minding my own business, being innocent, her words, right? I was just being my innocent, pure self when all this drama found me. And, it wasn't really my fault, but hey, I guess I got caught up in it. And yeah, I do admit that I probably could have handled the drama better. That is such a cop out, and I'm not falling for it. And I hope that if you have half a brain, you would not fall for that either. My God, I have so much to say about Tati, but I actually I don't care enough about her to elaborate on this topic further. I just had to say my piece though, because I just cannot believe the amount of propaganda going on in that comment section. Yeah.
It kind of gets to a point where it's like, well, should you ever speak your truth? And that gets really tricky because now I'm in a place where I want to speak as much truth as I can, but let go of the outcome and let go of what people say.
Translation, I want to be able to say whatever I want, admit to every single mistake or possibly questionable thing that I've ever done, but not face the consequences for it. And not have to hear anyone else's opinions or takes on the matter, even though my entire career is predicated on the fact that I have millions and millions of followers that tune in to watch me for the countless videos that I put out every week. However, I just want it to be a one-sided thing where I talk at people and people are never allowed to talk back at or question me. Yup, pretty much.